The Hallspace podcast would like to thank the University of Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Metro Bus System, and Cracker Barrel for their contributions to this story. The Hallspace podcast would like to apologize in advance to the family and estate of John Updike. The Hallspace podcast would advise not eating McDonald's pancakes under any circumstance. Welcome to the Hallspace podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Ritch Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show. Welcome back to the Hallspace podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ritch Hall, and my lovely and capable co-host is
Nicole Hall. Hey there.
Hey, welcome back. For our longtime listeners, shout out to our Gold Star listeners.
Yay.
Chris Reese, Natalie Terry, and Kaya.
We thank you guys so much for continuing to listen.
Yes.
And jumping in the conversations later.
Right. We really do appreciate.
We do.
Those asides that we get.
We do.
And those text messages.
Yeah, and this is what, episode 7?
Episode 7, so you've been rocking with us for seven hours.
God bless you guys.
Right? This is what you hopefully no one's binged us. Like, don't listen to us chatter on for 7 straight hours.
I feel like that would be a lot.
It would be a bit much.
Or maybe it's just like Greenleaf and you just love it so much.
Oh, yeah. She's into Greenleaf now.
I finished.
You finished all of Greenleaf?
I finished the 4 seasons that are available on Netflix, and now I need to figure out
how to get that last season.
What
is the last season on?
I don't know. Well, it's on OWN.
So it's probably on Sling.
It might be on Sling, but OWN is notorious for making it really hard to get to their episodes. So I'm like...
So you don't want to have to wait, but...
I don't, but I'm fiending. I like Netflix, get it together, put that next...
It just takes time. The season literally just ended for people who were keeping up with it. The season ended like a week ago, so you're caught up to the last season.
I am.
And it's going to take a while before Netflix is able to have it because OWN still owns it and doesn't want to give up the streaming rights for a little while. You see what I did there? Man, so clever. And so today's episode, we're going to talk a lot more about love and marriage because it is our 13th wedding anniversary in a couple days.
Yes.
August 25th is when the big thing happened.
The big thing.
And then also today, the day that we're recording is August 23rd, and it's actually our middle son Daniel's birthday. So we got to get this episode out as fast as possible so that we can get to his birthday party.
That's right.
And so hopefully that means his second birthday party. In these COVID times, they're called parties, but they're largely small gatherings of select individuals.
It is a gathering with our COVID circle.
Yes, our COVID bubble.
We stay in our COVID bubble.
Yeah.
We do not interact with anyone who is not in that bubble.
Right. So that bubble includes my mother and my sister and her daughters. And
that is all.
That is all.
And we miss the rest of you guys. They're dying to see their cousin Zach.
They are dying to see Zach. They miss him so much and they bring him up frequently.
Ivy. Yep.
Yes,
yep.
They bring up Mark and Ivy as well.
They do.
But we are like, people can't be. It's not the people we don't trust. It's the virus that doesn't care how many people we let into our circle. It's more than willing to run through our circle. Yep. So because we have many immunocompromised people in our circle, it's a matter of having to be very delicate mindful of whom we let in. Ra having asthma, Nicole having her asthma and everything. And then my mother having some stuff. So you got to be real sensitive. And I feel like I'm the type of person who, I love people and I'm good when I see you, but I can take a year off of hanging out with people.
Yeah.
Introvert-ish. This has actually been very big on activating that part of me that is like, do I need to see people? Talking to them's fine. Occasionally reaching out or texting or sending memes to the people I care about. That's about enough.
Yeah.
Do I need more? I mean, I do miss the events that we used to go to. We went to a lot of fairs and we went to a lot of festivals and things like that. So I missed that this summer. I miss large family gatherings. As I said before, I have a very large family. So I do miss
cousins.
I do miss seeing the cousins. I do miss, having my kids around those people and allowing them to be loved on by all these people in my
family. It's such a beautiful thing when you can see people love on your kids.
Right. But do I miss, the general public? No, not so much. So that's what it is. We're all locked in, and we'll make the most of it.
Yeah. So this episode we'll be talking about how we met, and I guess it's like 3 different parts you were saying.
Oh yeah. So I mean, the way our story is definitely a 3-part story, right? Because there's the how we met, how we fell in love, and then the how we got married. And I feel like we are old enough now that those stories are told in decades.
Yes.
Right? And that within that is very much an evolution of who we were as individuals,
right,
as well. And I think that's kind of interesting to a person like me, at least, to like delve into what that means and what that is.
Yeah.
So we can start at just the how we met story.
So there was a summer program.
E3, Emerging Engineers.
Emerging Ethnic Engineers.
Yes.
Had a summer program at the
University of Cincinnati. So the University of Cincinnati, very central to our story.
Yes, very.
In almost every way.
Yep. So all of the different high schools had a summer program, and you could spend the summer taking classes, and if you did well in those classes, then you would get a scholarship to UC. So
if you did well and passed all your classes for that summer, which was like 5 weeks. I don't remember exactly how long it was.
It was 5 weeks with 1 week on campus.
With 1 week spent on campus. So to a high schooler, that was considered the most awesome thing you could ever want.
Oh my gosh.
What's going to be more cooler than spending a week on a college campus?
In the dorms.
Like a college student.
Yes.
Surrounded by other teenagers.
And we
like
were
yourself.
Rowdy.
Oh my God.
Rowdy.
Yes. Many stories emerged from that experience.
Yep. I was in the program, and one of the girls that I was friends with had a crush on your best friend, and
Lewis Ferguson. Shout out to Lewis Ferguson out there in the world somewhere.
Shout out to Lou, Shotgun Lou.
So for my side of that, Lewis was like, we were a couple of Lotharios, right? We loved the ladies. And so I had a girl that I was kind of trying to talk to, and Lewis had like 3 or 4.
He did.
And your friend Princess was like girl number 4. He wasn't super into her, but she was cute.
Just enough, yeah.
And she seemed to like him. She like laughed really hard at everything he had to say.
She did.
So for my impression, this was back when Tangimal.
It's Tangimal now.
It's Tangimal now, but it used to be Tangiman Center, which was this old building that had, in its basement, it had an arcade. So this is back in the 90s, 92.
He said arcade.
It had an arcade in the basement with a bowling alley. Had a little bowling alley with like 5 or 6 lanes. And it had a full arcade with air hockey tables and
a few restaurants.
And a Street Fighter machine. So one of the things that's the key to this story is Lewis was obsessed with Street Fighter.
Yeah.
We spent before we were, even outside the program, we would go up to UC just so he could play the Street Fighter machine in Tangiman's basement. So most of that summer, in between classes and things like that, while we were supposed to be studying and doing, worthwhile things, we are in that basement and he's playing Street Fighter. Now, I'm not very good at Street Fighter, but I'm hanging out with this dude, so this is what I'm doing. And we were in that basement at Tangimal, or Tangiman. Back then it was Tangiman. It now looks more mall-like. It's like more clean and everything after they redeveloped it in the 2000s. But it used to be this old building of brick, and it felt like it was from the 50s.
Yeah.
But now they've modernized it, which is supposed to be better, and all the kids like it, but whatever. So we're in this basement, and this girl that Lewis likes calls him over. And I go over with him. We're just kind of joking around, and sitting with him is this little girl with purple on and braids. I think she's wearing a bib that day. She's wearing overalls.
I was wearing overalls.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, there are 2 straps, but I'm only wearing the one.
Right. One strap's got to be unstrapped.
Shout out to the 90s.
Right. Because that's how we know you're cool.
You can't tell me nothing.
Right. And and what's interesting about this encounter is normally when Lewis is doing his shtick, right, he was considered the funny one, and back then I was the quiet one. So wasn't getting a lot of attention necessarily from the ladies. I'd usually have a crush on a lady and sort of love her from afar.
Yeah.
So I was that creepy dude who might know your class schedule. We won't look at, the show You is, it gives me weird flashbacks of, oh my God.
Oh man, is that?
I was creepy. That was wrong. Back then, I just thought it was love, and love means I know where you are at all times. Is that wrong? But here's the thing. Lewis is chatting up this girl, Princess, and this other girl that's sitting with her is cracking up at my jokes because I make snide asides. Like, I'm all sardonic humor, and I'm commenting on the absurdity of, the world in general and what's happening. So normally when Lewis is doing his shtick, he's very sort of loud and brash. He's got this very deep voice. All the attention gets drawn to him, and I learned to just sort of be funny in the margins when it came to him.
He's got a commercial humor, right?
Yes. Well, I learned he used to do bits, and so I actually incorporated that into my sense of humor. Like, if you're my friend and you hear me talk over the course of several weeks in work or professional settings, you'll realize I'm repeating jokes. I'm just making them better each time.
Yeah.
So I'm doing bits, knowing that, this will get me through this social engagement if I just do these bits.
Well, and this group of people haven't heard it before, so
right. So I'll use it. I'll tell. I got 5 minutes of material on my daughter. So here we go. This is what happened this week, right?
Yes.
And so Lewis is doing his bit with this girl, trying to win her over, and the girl next to her, the best friend, is laughing at my jokes, and that girl happens to be Nicole.
I thought you were so funny.
Yeah. No other ladies didn't think me funny. I was the weird, quiet kid. So, I'm like, oh, hey, girl with the braids. And the dimples seems to like my jokes.
And I thought you were cute.
Yeah. So, we had an additional piece of history, which was my sister.
Right.
And so she flat out asks me, are you Bridget Hall's brother? I don't even know if she knew at the time.
I didn't know, but
that Bridget had a brother.
I did not.
But she thought we looked alike.
You guys both have the same chin.
That's what I heard. We have the same chin. That's what she kept saying. You have the same chin.
She said you have the same chin.
Yes. Here's another thing about my personal history. I have a brother named Addison. Both Addison and Bridget went to Walnut Hills, but Bridget at this time was going to School of Creative and Performing Arts, right? Where Nicole also went to high school.
They rode the bus together.
They rode the bus together because they both lived in the College Hill area.
We lived in the same area. I didn't know that either.
Right. So they would ride the bus into the College Hill area together, get off at different spaces. That'll be important. Remember that for later, right?
We'll come back to that.
Piece of information. But so because she knew Bridget, I'm used to people pointing me out for Addison. Right? All my high school career, people would say, you have a brother named Addison. And I'd be like, what's your beef with him? Because normally Addison is a very provocative character. He'll be on the show eventually.
He gets the people going.
Like throughout my childhood in grade school, I would have to fight people because they would threaten to beat my brother up after school. And my parents had that rule that if your brother gets into a fight, you need to defend him. Don't let your brother lose a fight.
Most black parents had that rule.
Which I'm not sure 100% helped him to be a better person, but that's like a whole thing for another day.
Yeah.
But so when people would approach me about my family, particularly about the kids, they would usually bring up Addison. So this is the first time I felt like in my life that anyone had brought up Bridget. Also, Bridget's like 4 years younger than me. Yeah. So to me, she's like a child, right? Like it's like, hey, do you know a 2-year-old who plays with blocks? And it's like, yeah, I know her. She's my sister. She eats balloons. What would you all be interested in her for? And another thing that happens when guys would come up to me later on in life and they'd be like, you know Bridget, right? I'll be trying to get with your sister. And I'd be like, yeah, she eats balloons. I don't know why you find her attractive, but whatever. But anyway, so she approaches me on the strength of Bridget, which is strange to me at the time. I'm like weirded out almost. Like, you don't know Addison? Like you haven't had a bad run-in with the other guy who shares my face?
I didn't know you existed at all.
Yeah. So she's like, she's saying, you have the same chin. And she got this cute smile with the dimples. And I think, all right, she's cute.
Yeah.
I dig her. And so because Lewis is talking to this girl and like 2 other girls, we don't really spend a lot of time with Nicole and Princess. We're chasing these other girls around. Lewis ends up getting with Amy, has a kid by her. Whole nother like horrible series of events that happens.
Me and Ed are going after Angela.
Ed Johnson and Angela Frazier back then. That was
her married name is what?
I did not know there would be math.
Okay.
Bad with names. I don't know if we talked about that, but I'm bad with names. I can remember stories, but I can't remember names. So like I'm taking too long on this story. If you tell me a detail about your life, I'll probably remember it in the course of a story. But if you tell me your name, I'll be like, yeah, you're the person who... prefers Sundays to Saturdays, I guess, because you don't go to church, whatever. Anyway, so meet this little girl with the braids and the dimples and see her intermittently throughout the summer and share a laugh with her every time. She always, seems to get my jokes and notice me. She actually sees me while standing next to this much more shiny figure whom I'm kind of hiding behind. Because, Lewis had charisma and people liked him. So he could kind of get a party going. He had a lot of energy. And so for me, who was an introvert who hadn't quite grown into my space yet and learned, the certain levels of power that I had, it was kind of good to sort of be next to him. And so it was interesting that she could see me and be directly into me, even though, I'm next to this other guy who the girls usually tend to like more. And so, like I said, we had a few interactions. Like, I don't remember like a ton of...
I don't either.
Just a few, like, you'd be around Princess, I'd be around Princess. We'd make jokes.
Yep. And she was an extrovert, so...
she was the only child, so she was very... She did what she wanted.
And that's kind of how we hung out. She was always nice to me, so we would go for lunch together and things like that. And
and I don't remember you and I ever going to lunch or anything then.
We didn't. Well, you were always with Lewis. And you were like the other girl, so it was.
Yeah.
And you guys were.
I remember once we had an adventure. Princess actually sent us on a quest to get her pancakes. So you might not know this story, but I do remember Lewis was like, Princess told me we got to get her pancakes. So he and I are like roaming the streets of Clifton trying to find a place to get some decent pancakes. I feel like we ended up at McDonald's back when it was in Clifton.
Oh, at the corner.
And got her some McDonald's pancakes, which, 2020 Ritch is like, whoa. But, back then, 1992 Ritch was like, all right, we solved the problem. Let's go get this girl some pancakes. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so, so we had all these adventures chasing the ladies. There was a water fight in the dorms. We almost got expelled from the program because Lewis technically started the water fight, but because, I don't know if I've talked about it here, but I have a very strong rabbit energy. Like when I think it's going to get dangerous, I get the hell out of there. And so this water fight is like erupting and I'm like, we are leaving. We are leaving to go get dinner because we do not want to be here when the consequences come crashing down. And it was an epic, like there was standing water on the floor. Because you had a bunch of high schoolers in a dorm who just wanted to do some fun stuff. And so that water fight erupted, went on for like an hour and a half. Mr. Woodley had to like round everybody up and like admonish them for a solid hour. And we missed it because of my rabbit sense, because I was like, let's get the hell out of here. And we come back and they were like, were you part of the water fight? And I was like, I didn't throw no water, nobody. I didn't do nothing.
I've been gone for 2 hours.
I've been gone for 2 hours because I knew to get out of here. And Lewis, they were like, but Lewis, they said you did it. It was technically, he did start the water fight. Like he walked up on some girl who another girl in his menagerie at the time and threw a cup of water on her. But I was completely blameless and faultless, other than I hang with a guy who might have set off a water fight, and I knew to get out of there as quickly as possible. So that's the summer of 1992 where Nicole and I meet.
At the end of that summer, we were riding the bus.
Yes, that's one of our like second meetings. Second or third. Well, from my point of view, I'll say that I would get on this bus. So I went to Aiken and lived in College Hill. So I'd catch the bus from Aiken home when I didn't feel like walking. And back then, when I was a much younger man, I'd walk that walk. And I'd have to look it up to see how far that walk is now. But older me is like, oh my God, that feels like so far. But in reality, like young me would just do it like 2-3 times a day.
It was easy.
Particularly if there was a girl on the other end of that walk, right? Like, whoa, I gotta go meet with the old girls. So I'm gonna make this very long walk. Right? Anyway, got on the bus not expecting to see a girl. I see Nicole on the bus and I'm like, hey, I know her. So I like move seats to go talk to her. And I think she's reading a book or something.
Always.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, you? And I may not have remembered her name at the time.
I said, hey, you called me Purple Girl with the Dimples or something.
Purple Girl. That's totally what I would have done. Hey, you're Purple Girl with the Dimples.
You did not call me Nicole. No.
Right, because I'm bad with names.
I don't know your name of individual.
Right. Hey, Purple Girl with the braids. And we ended up chatting it up on the bus and still had a really good rapport.
We did.
I felt like, okay, she's funny and she likes me, but she goes to a completely different school, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with that.
Yeah.
Because back then, that's really all it took. Like, but you go all the way to SCBA, which is downtown, and I'm at Aiken, which is local.
I just don't know how this long distance relationship
I don't know how this long distance relationship is going to work. I don't really use the phone. Like back then, it wasn't like now where your kids could have phones. Like we shared the landline with the house. So any girl that I'm calling or anyone who's calling me has to go through the stopgap that is my parents. Like, right? Like that needs to unlock for me to have access to anybody.
And then you had to go through my grandparents.
Right. Which put a pin in that because that comes back later. So, so we're riding the same bus and we meet on the bus intermittently. Like sometimes after band practice, I catch this bus because I can't catch the main buses going home. I've been hanging out or doing whatever with my friends, and she'd occasionally be on the bus. Yeah. And she'd get off at a weird stop. So once I realized where she lived, I realized like she'd get off. It's hard to explain over a podcast, but like there's this main street, right? And if there's a place where the bus turned.
Yeah.
And then there was an earlier stop that was like 2 blocks back.
Yeah.
She would get off at the block two stops back and walk this much further length, even though the bus made this left closer to her home.
Because I didn't like to cross the main street.
And so me being me, I hop off the bus with her because I'm not that far from my house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do you get off here?
That's literally what you said.
That is literally what I said. That's a total me move.
Why do you get off way back here?
Why do you get off way back here if you live way up there? All right, so I get off the bus. She doesn't even know I'm getting off the bus with her. But I'm determined to like have this moment with her because I'm me.
Hey, you.
What are you doing? I can't solve this riddle that is you. What are you doing getting off over here?
And so, guys, it was the most beautiful thing ever. He walked me all the way home and was a perfect gentleman. And he's like, all right, I'll see you later. He doesn't ask me for my number. He doesn't, nothing. Yeah. We have a great conversation. I thought we had a good rapport going.
Right. Once again, good rapport. We always fell into a good rapport.
You're like, hey, all right, I'll see you later.
Yep.
And so I'm like, I don't know if you know, but later on I was like, what did I do wrong? Maybe I should have offered water. He was thirsty. He walked me all the way home. I didn't offer him any water. I'm never going to see that guy again. I don't know what I did wrong.
She didn't do anything wrong, ladies and gentlemen. I just was the type of guy who's like, I'm getting good friend vibe signals here, but I don't know that you are into me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be nice and respectful, and I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you again later. And then I just sort of move on, because that's me. My default setting, for those who don't know, is aloof. I say that it has always been that. So over the span of my life, when it comes to people, I am largely aloof in interactions. If I really like you, like I do get a bit of jazz, like there's an energy, but like I never make assumptions on the level of like how into me is this person, even if I'm like, oh no, I'm super into this person, it's like, but continue to play aloof because that's the best speed setting.
Way to go.
Right. Safest way to go. You're not going to step on any toes. And so I was just aloof. I just said, all right, nice to meet you. Nice to see you again. I think I solved the mystery of why you get off at the weird stop. I'm now going to walk the rest of the way to my home. And then we don't really see each other again until I get a Christmas card from you.
Right. So here's this part of that story. So the summer I was moving back in with my grandparents, and I was going to performing arts, and I see Bridget on the same bus. And I said, Bridget, can you give this Christmas card to your brother? And she says, which one? Mind blown.
Because that's when Nicole discovered there were two of us.
There are two of them?
There are two of us.
Oh, man.
It's not what you think it is.
Well, let me say this. At the time, this is a young Nicole with multiple crushes, whatever. I'm like, that is a Hallboy sandwich. Okay. There's two of them. Wow.
What she doesn't know is that we could not be any more different in personality.
You guys are so completely different.
As I said earlier, if someone knew my brother, if my brother's reputation preceded him, it was almost always for doing something ash-holish. And so I would often be like ready to fight someone who'd be like, so I know your brother.
Right.
And it's like, all right. And on site, I'm gonna beat him up. And it's like, well, now I gotta fight you.
Right.
Jeez, like you don't know how it works in my house. Because I can't let my brother, you can't be premeditating it.
Right. Now here's
like,
the thing
if impulsively you want to fight him, okay. But don't come up. So.
But the thing about Addison is he's a handsome kid. He's charming. He's very smart.
Yes.
The ladies love him.
Yes.
You know, much in the way that when Daniel grows up, he's going to be.
Oh my God, yes. He's totally going to be. They have so many parallels.
But yeah.
It's not even funny.
But I was definitely into.
The quiet, weird one.
Yeah.
Not the brash, extroverted, energetic one.
Also another confession here. I gave out a few Christmas cards.
No, I wasn't your only Christmas card?
Not my only Christmas card.
So here's the thing. She put her telephone number in the Christmas card. And up until last year, 2 years ago, we had the Christmas cards. Our basement flooded. Do we still have it? The basement flooded and the candy cane in it.
The candy cane died, but the paper is still.
Yeah. I didn't know that we still had it, but so I kept it. And it had a phone number, and I did try to call the phone number. But as we talked about before, what layers you had to go through to call someone, I called. First I called, nobody answered because they didn't know my number. And then I felt like I called once, and a deep voiced man picked up the phone, and I was like, hi, is Nicole there? And he's like, no. And I'm like, all right, bye. Because what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And then so never use the phone number in any meaningful way.
I didn't know that you tried to call.
I did try to call a few times. I was like, okay, this cute girl gave me a card.
Boom.
Must be in. And I'm gonna try to call her. Cold call. I'm gonna cold call this girl who gave me her phone number.
It's not cold calling if I get
in the 90s.
Boom.
In the 90s.
Yes, with my grandparents who, there are 5 of us in the house. My mom doesn't use the phone, but my grandparents do, and my brother does because he's got girls calling. And so it was like, listen, y'all can't have people calling after 8. You tying up the line.
I never called after 8. I had similar rules in my home where you could not call after a certain hour. So I definitely did not try to call beyond a certain time.
Yeah.
And so, so that was the first part of our story.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, I graduate from high school. I go through all my romantic stumbles and fumbles. And have a semi-serious relationship that ends tragically because we both go to different colleges. She ends up at Miami, I end up at UC, and she's just like, I don't think this could work. I want to do the college things. And I get my heart broken because I'm like, I think we could be together. What are you talking about? And so I spent my first year of college in the dumps. I got dumped, and then I dated another girl and got dumped again. So it was 2 in a row in first quarter. So I didn't even make it the second semester.
Yeah.
And then after that had a string of whatever, and nothing super meaningful necessarily, but a few, oh yeah, I'm kind of into this person. And then the horror show that was this girl, Lisa, that I dated, that I was bad for, she was bad for me. Ugh.
Toxic with a capital T.
It's one of those where sometimes when you're in certain relationships, it's not that you're a bad person or they're a bad person necessarily, but when you two are together, and particularly that young, you can bring a lot of bad stuff out of each other. And her insecurities and my insecurities definitely did not mix. And that was a couple of years, I feel like, of just bad. And then and so at UC, I'm learning how college works by this point.
You're in your second year.
Second year? Did I meet you my second year?
Yes.
Did I go through all those adventures in a year and a half?
Yes, you're a year ahead of me. So you're.
No, I didn't meet you your freshman year. I met you your sophomore year, right?
Correct.
Right.
So you were in your third year.
Yeah. I was in my third year. Because by then I had learned college. Yeah, I didn't learn college my sophomore year. I was still kind of messing around. I almost dropped out my sophomore year. It was like, do I want to do this college thing? Am I going to graduate at this rate? Does this matter? I went through a real existential crisis.
I think a lot of us do in our sophomore year. Really? What am I doing?
Yeah, and because I was local, you know what I mean? I wasn't entrenched in the college life because I had a family and friends outside of college. I was not very connected to campus, so I would just sort of go hang out with high school friends and things like that. So I'd made some friends, but not really deeply connected. And was having adventures. I was still friends with Lewis. Lewis made it 1 quarter of college and then dropped out and then had a kid within a year. And his life is on this other trajectory. And now I'm this guy who feels kind of alone on this campus.
Yeah.
But I also had figured out, my brother came to college that second year.
He did.
And so he and I are figuring out financial aid. We're having these conversations with people at financial aid. How do you finesse the financial aid system?
I remember seeing him on campus thinking, Richie grew his hair out? No, that's not Richie. It looks like him.
Yeah. And that was when she finally learned who the second hall boy was.
At the first time I saw him, he had this big afro. He's got his keys hanging on his pocket like you.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's not.
Because back then I wore my keys on a lanyard, and the lanyard would hang out of my pocket because that was cool. What are you talking about?
Because that's what you guys
always walking around with a string hanging out of my pocket.
That guy has his face, but not. What is?
Not his swag. He did not quite have my swag. He had his own swag. It was much more flamboyant, much more colorful than me.
Yeah.
So, I learned in college that you don't have to, if a person is a procrastinator like myself, then you could get into classes whether you had registered for them or not. And this was the process by which you did that. You look at the schedule, find out that the classes that you want might be closed. So instead of thinking to yourself, oh, I'll never get into that class, just show up to the class. Then they do this thing at the beginning of the class and say, who in this class isn't registered? Because the professor, and now that I'm a professor, I know what they're going through. They're like, I don't want to put up with 8 more of you than I can handle.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just tell you on day 1, if you're not registered for this class, go ahead and get out.
Yeah.
Right? But what I would do, Richie circa 1992 would just show up and hang out and not raise my hand. I'm not saying anything.
1998.
98? Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is 98. Yes. Because I graduated from high school in 95.
That's right.
And so 96, 97, I figured out the game was don't let them know that you're not supposed to be in the class. Just be there. And then go up to them one day and say, hey, I'm having financial aid problems, which I probably was because I didn't have no money.
Yeah.
And so my registration isn't going through, but they just told me to show up to class until it does.
Well, and if you wanted to show up to class and you participated, they would assign you in.
Right. So I would be there. I would actively participate in these courses, not at all on the roll until I waited until enough people dropped it that I could just go ahead and add it before the final add date.
I was going to say, right about 2 weeks before midterms, when people start falling off. Seriously.
They fall off actually way earlier than that. You could tell, because I would just sort of watch the room. Who stopped showing up?
Yeah.
And you just know these people are going to drop.
And you only need one to not come.
And if they don't drop, by 3 or 4 weeks in, if you just go up to the professor and say, hey, I got my financial aid figured out. I've been in here participating.
Yeah.
Go ahead and sign me into your class. They do it without fault.
Thinking about it.
Because I'm a good student. I'm actively participating.
Yeah.
They'd love to have me. So I would finesse the system like gravy. So, and I wouldn't necessarily have to do this for like my core classes, but whenever I wanted an elective, I would just hang out until it was time to do it.
Yeah.
And if I like hung out for a couple weeks and I was like, this class blows, then I would just not be there anymore because what am I losing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but for the most part, that was Richie's way of finessing you don't get into this class because it's closed system.
Yeah.
And one of these classes I get into is creative writing with James Schiff.
Yeah.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed James Schiff.
Glasses.
Loved him some John Updike. Loved wearing his shirts open so that his little chest hairs would be right there at the top of his shirt, peek through the V.
You guys have to see the crawly fingers at the chest hair.
Yeah. He loved having his little blonde chest hair speaking. He was like a cool white guy.
Yeah.
Would speak for hours about how great John Updike was, the greatest American writer. And I had taken his class once before. Schiff knew me, and I just liked taking creative writing class because I really wanted to be a writer. My parents were raised, as upper middle class Negroes or middle class Negroes. They had middle class aspirations, so there was no way they were going to let me be a creative writer. Like that was something I could do as a hobby or to entertain myself. Yeah. No, instead I could go become a social worker or a psychologist, which people think make like all the money, and I could, but also
rich, Dr. Hall?
I am not rich. I am not. I am rich in name, but not in stature or in resource, right? But my Lord makes me rich, but in this earthly plane, I'm pulling pennies together, right?
Right.
And that's not to say that I'm not comfortable, but I'm definitely not rich. Anyway, so taking this creative writing class for the second time, I just want to be in a room where they let me write stuff, and that's part of my assignments. And I'm sitting next to this girl who's a black girl, because usually if I sat in the room, I would try to sit next to the black people because we're probably going to end up being cool, because this is a predominantly white institution, PWI.
Like reverend during class.
Yeah, I'm going to be a reverend. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say things. I'm going to challenge a little bit of the status quo, as it were. Yeah. And she doesn't know at the time, but I'm, once again, not registered for this class. But I also do not raise my hand when he asks who's registered for this class. Because Schiff knows me. So even if he knows I'm not on the roll. He has to, because he knows me by name at this point. He's had me before, and I'm just sitting there.
List.
Yeah, he's looking at his list. And my name ain't on there. But I'm going to holler at him after class. Financial aid got messed up.
You gonna pull his coat to something.
Yeah, I'm going to pull his coat to something.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting next to this girl, and they put us in breakout groups, right? We got to talk to each other. And I look at this girl, and she says, you don't know me. You don't remember me, do you? And at this point, like I said, I've been through a dozen adventures. And I've now, dated and had girlfriends and things like that. And I look at her, and I don't remember her.
I don't know your names
individually. But
y'all, he He is so rude.
Oh, I didn't remember her.
You did not.
Oh.
I said I went to school with your sister Bridget.
You went to school with who? Bridget, not Addison?
You got the chin.
Got the chin.
I don't know this Addison kid at this point. Like,
Yeah. Ugh. And so with that, we have to go to commercial. We'll come back and tell you the rest of the story after this.
And we're back. Hey there.
All right. So we were telling the story, and I was saying how I did not remember you in Shift's class.
You did not.
But I do remember now that you were wearing stripes at this point.
I was.
And jeans. And didn't have braids at this point.
I did not. I had cut my hair.
Yeah. Short hair.
It's the first thing I did. So Richie is you're in your third year.
Yeah.
And I was in my sophomore year. And one of the first things I did once I got out of high school and got on campus was cut my hair off and color it. Because my grandparents were like, nope, that's not what we're doing.
Look at you testing the boundaries.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I cut it off and I was like, I love this. This is great.
Nice.
This is I'm an individual, right?
Look at you.
Right. And so at this point, I am on campus and I'm still on campus.
Yeah.
I had gone through a number of...
No, you weren't on campus when I met you. You were back at your grandparents'.
You know what? That's right, because I got played like Sega. Whole nother story.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So...
Yeah.
So... we were in this creative writing class, and it's me, you, and...
this white kid.
Gingerhead
white kid. I don't know. I found one of his stories when I was going through cleaning out my office, but I cannot remember his name. I want to say like Tim or something, like some random.
I can't remember his name. I remember he was a nice kid.
He was weird.
Very quiet.
He's very quiet and weird.
He was.
And I always liked quiet and weird white boys because I saw myself as quiet and weird.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, I get you. And more often than not, we'd have overlapping interests. I think he and you both like Stephen King stories.
We did.
He was very much into the gunslinger stuff, which you weren't into.
He was into cowboys and gunslinging and things like that. And
yeah. So all of his stories were like that, like weird, supernatural cowboy stuff.
He had written a story like that. And so Shift gives us, stories to write, and
gives us writing assignments.
And we're supposed to
critique. We're supposed to read and critique. And so I was always hard on her. Because I wanted her to be better for the future.
Is that what we're calling it?
That's what we're calling it. I was super brutal, guys. Like looking back on it, it's a little cringy. I was super harsh.
Cringy.
I don't know why I was so harsh.
I wrote this great 2-pager.
And she was so proud of it.
Because it's still good. I read it the other day.
I shredded it. I shredded it to pieces.
What?
I shredded it. I red-inked the heck out of that.
You did. You said,
I did.
This is supposed to be, the assignment it's supposed to be an interaction with another person. While it is thought-provoking that she's in this moment by herself, she's supposed to be interacting with a whole nother person.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is a girl I liked.
This is a girl he liked, y'all.
Yeah.
So you're not nearly as hard on we're gonna call him Tim.
Let's call him Tim. Tim works.
Weren't nearly
because I didn't care about him. Tim can live his life, whatever.
So you just want me to be better.
I wanted you to be better for the future. I saw potential.
He shredded every single because once you get into a group,
you sort of stay in that group. You don't really move around groups.
That's your group.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy is cute, but I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not making anything easy for myself.
He doesn't remember me.
Yeah. I remembered her with time. Like as I was around her a lot more, like every not every day in class. I think it was 2 days a week, that class.
2 days a week, yeah.
2 days a week, hour and a half. And I'm being a jerk.
There are 2 other black girls in the class.
That's right. Not all of them made it to the end. Only one of them stuck around.
Only one of them made it. And so I'm like, well, there's 2 other girls. I don't know what this looks like. I just, at this point, I had gone through some strings of bad decision making in my choice of boys to date. And that last one, spring quarter, my sophomore year, took me out.
Yeah.
So I moved back home. I need to get serious about school. I was like, this is not it.
Yeah.
I'm not dating, right?
And so it's fall. So
it's fall quarter.
Yeah.
So it's fall quarter. I'm back home. You're home.
Yeah.
We're in the creative writing class. My cousin Will.
I had an apartment.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were living on the west side.
My issues with the girlfriend who wasn't necessarily, I can't necessarily say she was toxic. Back then I used to call her crazy, but in retrospect she definitely had some issues. But I also had issues. I got into some fights with my mom because I had moved back home, and then the fights with my mom led to mom saying, you need to get an apartment. I was very hurt by it at the time, felt very rejected that Ethel Hall would put me out of this home and change the locks. How dare you? In retrospect, she should have put me out. I had hair on my chest, and I was being a little too forthright to not be paying any bills around there. So I had to get my own box. I had to get my own box to live in, and I was having a great time in my box out there in the middle of nowhere with the view of the hills in my old apartment.
It was a nice view.
It was a nice view. It was a lovely view. I loved waking up to that view every day. It overlooked the valley. So like, although it was in the west side, right off of I'm blanking on the name of the street.
Not Glenway.
Harrison. Right off of Harrison.
Yeah.
And it just overlooked this random valley where there was no development. And so every morning I'd walk out to my room to this big window and look into the trees, which reminded me a lot of West Virginia. But anyway, so I've got an apartment. I'm feeling myself. I've got a really good job at this point. I'm working at Converges. I'm having adventures over there. And I meet this girl who should be a better writer. And I'm gonna make it happen. And I'm writing stories. Made me
spit my wine out.
And I don't know if she's gonna ask me out. But apparently, back then, the Alpha sorority, Alpha Phi Alpha sorority, fraternity. Sorry, I apologize to the Alphas in the room. Do nothing to denigrate your organization. I did not join a fraternity because on UC, a lot of them were offline, and I did not want to risk being non-chapter. My dad was a Kappa, brother is a Kappa, and I just never quite gelled. AKA, so the black frats run deep in my family. I'm also going to be irreverent to them because I'm irreverent to everything, so why should they get a pass? But I didn't understand why people should beat me up to be my friend. Like, no, I'm not going to let you abuse me for the sake of friendship. They do not haze. Right. I'm sorry. None of these chapters hazed ever.
They don't.
Nobody made anybody eat an onion or run around naked or I don't know, whatever. So
they had
the Alpha Cabaret every year back then. It was a big shindig where you dressed up and drank some champagne.
Through the best party.
It was the best. It was fun and classy. And I had been at school 3 years and never went. Or 3 years. I was going to my third year, never went, never planned to go.
And it was like it's like college prom.
It was like a college prom.
It's like a college prom.
But Nicole's cousin, Will, was at school, and he was very much into things like that. And so he was going. It was his first year of school. He was going to that cabaret. Like, he needed to be at that
I'm gonna go.
mega status event.
I have my date. You need to find you a date. And I'm like, okay. So Operation Get Nikki a Date.
Yeah.
And so Trinice was also gonna go. She was my best friend in college. She was going. She looks like Halle Berry, y'all. She was gonna get a date. It wasn't gonna be no. Beautiful girl. But I had gone back home and I was disconnected from campus, and so interacting with like socially on campus like I had been before wasn't the same. So it wasn't that I didn't have options, but it was like, who do I want to take to this thing, right? And personally for me, my senior prom was a bust.
Senior proms.
Oh, senior prom was a bust.
So much build up.
I love getting dressed up and going to go dance. I do. It is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I was only allowed my grandparents had this rule where you only went to one prom. And so I had a date. I had 2 dates my junior year.
Look at you.
Ooh.
Fancy.
What?
Fancy.
What? I mean, we weren't dating. I wasn't dating any of those guys, but they were nice gentlemen. They would take me out, We never went out, never dated, anything like that. But, wanted to go to prom together because prom is important,
Yeah.
I couldn't go my junior year. I wait till my senior year. I had a boyfriend and we broke up, and then all that kind of
sorry.
Stupid. So I went with my friend at the time, Gina. And so I went to prom with a girl for my senior prom.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Ended up in the rain at Burger King.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah. So this is important.
Nicole went to 1 prom. I went to 5 proms.
Yeah.
Because that's the type of guy I was. And had a really epic prom night one time. Maybe one day I'll tell you guys that story.
Insert eye roll.
The sad part was my very first prom, I went my sophomore year. It was the most epic prom adventure ever. And none of the other proms ever met that level of fun that I had being this sophomore kid hanging out with seniors, and I was out all night. And I never did that again in my other 5 proms. I had a couple of adventures, but none of them met that level of, oh my God, I'm out here roaming the streets of Cincinnati in the dark, having a blast. But anyway, so fast forward to there's this Alpha Cabaret. She set her sights on me, but I don't know it. And I, as I said before, am playing aloof because that's me. So I'm being horrible to her as an editor. And, when I see her out, we make jokes. We had that one time where we walked to class together. And this guy who, I don't remember his name individually, but we called him Cock Blocker. He totally tried to block Nicole because she was laughing too much at my jokes. And he had history with her. He knew her from the dorms.
He knew me from the dorms.
And so he and I were walking, and then she comes out of building, out of nowhere. For me, it's like, we're over there by, I think, was that back when they had the bubbles?
This is before the bubbles.
Was it before the bubbles? Okay.
We're walking past McMicken and Tangeman.
Yeah, we're coming from way back.
We're coming back from the engineering area.
Yes. And then heading towards...
We're heading towards McMicken Arts and Sciences.
Well, that's where our class is. So I'm walking to the writing class, and she comes out of a building and starts walking with me and this guy, and I'm just chatting him up, and I'm making jokes.
You and I were chatting first.
Yeah.
And then this
he came out of nowhere?
Comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, so what are we doing this weekend? What are you doing?
Yeah, so he asks her out while I'm there. He says, hey, can I talk to you as I'm going up the stairs? And he's like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I keep going because I'm like, oh, okay, dude, shoot your shot. Yeah. So that's one thing that makes me think, okay, she's got somebody else. Then this other time we come out of class and I'm just sort of going my way. And this dude, this very handsome gentleman in a leather coat runs up on her and grabs her as soon as she walks out the room. And so I'm thinking, oh, that must be her boyfriend, that very handsome gentleman in the leather coat, right?
His hair was always cut and precision. His face
that dude looked fly. So why would I not think that was her boyfriend?
Yeah.
It was not her boyfriend.
It was not. No, it was
Will. Her cousin Will.
It is Will.
Right.
He is coming to pick me up from class so we can get into some shenanigans.
And he's coming to check me out.
And he's coming. So because I'm like, okay, I think there's this guy in my class that I like. He's like, okay, because he's got to prove, right?
Right. Because this is important to him.
This is important to him, and we were raised together, you know how cousins are. And so he's like a brother to me, you know. In fact, in high school, we told people we were twins.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm mentally, so even to this day, it's been decades that I've known the two of them. And even now, I will sometimes stop and go, her cousin Will. Because when I met, she was like, that's my brother. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And then she's like, he's actually not my brother, he's my cousin, but I had already locked him in as brother. So to this day, I will be like, yeah, her cousin Will.
Yeah. He's a brother.
I trip over it every time.
We grew up together.
They are thick as thieves.
We are thick as thieves.
They are dangerous when together.
Oh, wow.
There are many stories of her coming home blotto drunk, completely hammered. And whenever Will's in town, it's just going to end up, they're going to end up drunk and possibly at a drag show. That's what's going to happen if her and Will are out all night.
Listen, we like to go, we like to dance, we like to see performances, okay?
Okay. Fantastic. And they know how to pour a good drink, I hear.
Well, yes, they do.
Anyway. So she needs a date to this cabaret, and we're in class one day.
So we're in class, and so Will and Trinice are like, listen, you got to ask him today. You only have a couple weeks. Yeah. You know, and I was like, and they're like, you got to have at least one date in to see if you even think you can hang out with this guy. Because, Will can be rough. Okay. Yeah. If he don't like you, that's it.
Yeah. It would have been curtains.
Oh, yeah. And so, we're in class. So let me also say this about Richie. He had his own leather coat, and his keys hanging out his pocket. He was so handsome.
Drove a Camaro at the time.
He drove a Camaro, and he had this black book bag. When class was up, he would sling that book bag across his shoulder, put his keys in his pocket, and he was out like Sonic. Okay? Yep. So he didn't linger.
Known for disappearing.
He would disappear out of class as soon as class was over.
It'd be me and my thoughts as I walk around this campus.
And he's out. And he walked really fast. And so I kind of had to like block the door and catch him as he's coming out. And y'all, I'm super nervous. Let me say this too.
Her hands were shaking.
My hands were shaking. I've never asked a boy out. Okay? Never asked a boy out.
And what did she hit me with?
I said,
what are you doing this weekend?
What are you doing?
The same thing that Blocker used, she threw at me.
What are you doing this weekend?
And my response was, because this is me and I'm aloof, well, I work a lot.
Rude.
I mean, I did work a lot.
Stop. Can we have a button for every time you're rude?
I mean,
can we have like a sound?
This is retroactively rude. I'm not like, as rude now.
Like
So yeah, I work a lot.
And I'm like,
because at the time I was working at Converges, they had mandatory overtime. So I was working 60 hours a week. Like I was doing college and working 60 hours a week.
Full time.
So if you ask me what I'm doing, I'm probably at work. Like that's all I'm doing. I got to pay these bills. These bills don't play.
That's true.
And honestly, at that time, like with that overtime, I was pulling in like, to me, 20,000 something, 25,000. Like, so that was good money
paying your own tuition
to a 20-year-old. Yeah, I was paying my own tuition.
It's good money.
I was, so, I'm hustling to make this dough so I can stay in school and keep this apartment.
So he does work a lot, right?
Right. But what she wanted to hear was, nah, shorty, not much. What you into this weekend?
What you wanted?
That's what a normal guy would have known to say. What you looking to do? I got an apartment. What you looking to do? Hey,
trying to get into the actual facts and details.
Yeah. I'm going micro when I should stay macro. Well, I'm a person who works a lot, so if I could move some things around in my schedule, maybe we could accommodate a request. I don't know, whatever.
Well, you must have seen in my face. I was like, oh well.
Yeah, and I'm like, but I mean, what's up? And she's like, well, would you like to have breakfast or something? I'm like, sure, I like breakfast. And that's what I'm starting to catch on to. She's asking you out, Rich.
Ugh.
And I was not entangled in any way at this time. Like I had been through some really horrible relationship stuff.
We're not entangled.
I was not. And so I was completely free to be dating, but was once again too aloof. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I thought this girl was cute. I had a bit of a crush on her, but was also at that point like, Rich, you don't need relationships. You might not be built for this.
Yeah.
And so she's like that person who came along at the point where I was genuinely thinking, do I need to be dating at all? Maybe I should just hide out in this apartment.
And you know what? Honestly, I wanted to go to this cabaret, but I didn't want to date either.
Yeah.
I mean, those last couple guys that I dated were just, oh my gosh.
Right. So, I was ready to hang it up.
We're gonna go to this.
We're just gonna go to a lunch, see if we get along.
We're gonna go to this fancy. I mean, for me, it was also this lunch or breakfast.
We'll determine the fancy dinner. And then after that, if you never see me again, whatever.
Hey, good luck with your life.
Right. And so I said, yeah, I'll pick you up and I'll take you to breakfast.
And so I wrote my name and my number on a piece of paper.
Which I kept and still had.
We still have it.
Yeah, we still have that piece of paper because I'm a hoarder, so I keep a lot of nostalgic things.
Yeah.
That hold any emotional resonance to me, even years later, decades later.
Right. And because you worked a lot, we could only go out on Sunday mornings.
Yes. Well, yes, it had to be Sunday morning because I had to be at work that day.
And during
because I was only off Wednesdays, Thursdays.
Yes.
I had weird off days.
Yeah, you did.
Which I needed for school.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we went out on a Sunday morning.
Yep.
And we went to Frisch's.
We did.
And we had a really good time.
We did.
There was a lot of laughing and joking. I don't remember what. We got the buffet. We were kids.
Yeah.
We got the buffet and we did a lot of laughing. And it was like, all right, this is a thing. And so I remember I called her on my break that first day she gave me a number. This time she gave me her number. I called it. And I remember this time the grandfather answered again. And I'm like, so I'm looking for Nicole, gentleman who lives in her home. And he called for her and she got on the phone and we joked around and laughed.
Yep.
My whole 15-minute break. And I said, I got to go.
And you called me every day.
After that.
15-minute break after that.
After that, I would call every day on my break.
Forevermore.
Or from now until. I have spoken to her every day probably since then.
Yeah. Yep.
Give or take a few a few bad days.
A few bad days when you passed out. Yeah. Or I passed out.
Right.
It's been a long time. So.
Yeah. So way back in '98 that's the how we met story. And then I forget what, I know it was like our second or third date where I like said, okay, so you're my girlfriend now.
Yes, you did.
I feel like I wrote this down somewhere too, because I remember I was wearing my blue plaid shirt.
Which you still have.
Which I still have.
Your Mecca shirt.
My Mecca, yeah, my plaid blue Mecca shirt, which I love. Still even now. I can still fit it because it was double XL back then.
Yep.
And so it's a pretty good sitting around the house, keep you warm shirt because it's very thick cotton. Anyway, once again, macro. Yeah, we're coming out of someplace. We had gone somewhere to eat. And we were coming out, and I had given you my shirt, the shirt off my back, literally. And I remember I like pulled you on the shirt and pulled you in for a kiss. And I said, so you're my girlfriend now.
It was so romantic.
And she was like, yes. And that's the beginning of how we started dating. And it took us an hour to tell this story. So we haven't even gotten to oh no, that's the part 1 and part 2. We didn't even get to like the how we got engaged.
Yeah, that's a whole
story.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how Nicole and I met and fell in love. It was a lot of going to movies back then and making jokes.
Which was great because theaters were empty on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Right. We could always get dinner anywhere we wanted because it was only Wednesdays and Thursdays we could go. And I was rolling in money, so we could go a lot of places. So we started leveling up pretty quick. Like we were definitely out of Frisch's like within the first couple of. We were Applebee's and Fridays or better.
What?
Right. You want to go to Longhorn Steakhouse?
What?
We doing that.
I got you, boo.
I got you on that. I just got to make sure I pay my rent, and I got you.
Right.
We went out of town to Florida that first year.
We did. We were together 8 months by that point.
Yeah. And her grandmother let me drive her to Florida.
Yep, for my
Took her to Clearwater. And
we stopped off in West Virginia.
Ran up way too many credit cards. In retrospect, it was not a good idea. But ran up some credit cards going to Disney World. Took you to Disney World.
You took me to Disney World.
Just to see if I could do it.
Yep. We stopped off to see Addison in West Virginia first, and then we went down to
and stopped in Tennessee to see my sister.
To see Bridget.
Saw Bridget at TSU.
Yep.
And went to I think we went to a college party it was Nicole's 21st birthday because I remember she couldn't get into the bar in West Virginia because she hadn't turned 21 yet. She was turning 21 at midnight. They wouldn't let her in.
And they wouldn't let me in. It was so
And my
stupid.
brother was like super mad. He was like, why don't you come in and leave her there? And I'm like, I can't leave this girl that I drove all these hours. I drove her 4 hours from home. I can't just leave her in the lobby of this hotel because you want to go into this party.
He was so excited you were there.
He was so excited. He wanted to show me off to all these people I don't know, nor did I really care for.
His friends.
And he wanted everybody to see that his brother was in town. He often would do that when I'd come to town.
Every time.
And I had to, I think I left you once just to go look around and then come back.
You did.
And then you and I just hung out there.
We did.
Talking in the lobby. And that was, I think, so I realized that this might be a long-term thing. We drove to Florida that first year. We stopped at every Cracker Barrel to eat.
We did.
We would stop at Cracker Barrel to have French toast.
Every time.
Every day. Pretty much we stopped at like 4 in that 12 in that. No, it had to be more because at first I'm thinking, well, it's like a 13-hour drive to get to Clearwater, but we didn't drive straight to Clearwater, so we stopped on the way to. We stopped after we left West Virginia. We stopped after we got to Tennessee. We stopped, so we were like driving. We were in the car together for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And did not have any major issues. Our only major issue on that trip was leaving. It was raining.
Yeah.
And I asked Nicole to read a map, not knowing she couldn't read a map.
Yeah.
And we were stuck in traffic, leaving and I think had we gone to Disneyland on our last day? And then been like,
we were trying to.
We were dumb. We were dumb. We had gone to Disneyland to walk around that day, and then we knew we had to get in the car and drive all the way home.
Yeah.
And so, and I thought we'll stop on the way back if we get too tired, right?
We're young.
And so we're like both worn out. We're in the car. It's raining. We're stuck in traffic on the Florida Turnpike or whatever, the highway, and traffic's not moving. And I'm like, can we get off somewhere and find a back road to get back on the highway later?
I did not know there would be math.
And I'm like, could you just look at the map and see if one of these exits has a trail that leads to somewhere further up the highway? Because I'd much rather drive on the back roads of Florida than to stay stuck in this traffic?
I can't read.
And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? And I'm like, just look at the map. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, please say more than I don't know. Because, like, I want to get off right now.
I can't read the map.
She did not admit that she couldn't read the map. She just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm like, and so I will say that one thing that is a fundament of our relationship that has allowed it to last this long. We are two people who have essentially, it was a silent creed for a very long time, but it became a very outspoken creed over the course of our relationship. And I think it's, as I said, one of the things that makes it work. We're both oldest children, so we're both used to taking care of people beneath us. And in doing so, we have this sort of internal, don't create problems, only find solutions, right? And so we are just never people who bring to each other or like to bring to each other a problem that we also haven't thought for a second what a solution might be. Yeah. Like, don't come to me and be like, I don't know what to do. I didn't even try. Because you're gonna, like, we're just two people who get pissed off by that, which is why sometimes our kids like bother us, because it's like, please put some effort into finding a solution.
Did you at least think about it?
Did you at least look? Yeah. Like, where are my shoes? Where are my shoes? Did you at least look?
Did you at least look?
Right? And so in this moment, she's triggering that part of me that's like, are you trying to find a solution or are you sitting on your hands? And she was genuinely, I feel even to this day, sitting on it because she just didn't have the capability. But I didn't know that. We hadn't had to, like, normally I had traced out that entire trip. Like, I went and got a trip tick from AAA.
And I'm looking at this map and I'm like, I
didn't travel without an atlas. This is back before the Google days.
GPS.
There's no GPS to redirect you. This is just
internet.
Richie knows how to read a map.
Yeah.
And Richie's dad taught him that sometimes there are back roads that lead you the same way the regular road's going. You just got to be willing to face some stoplights.
Yeah.
And so I'm like asking her to do that high level cartography with no experience. Well, and we're both tired and she's just like, I don't know.
I'm looking at it and I'm literally like, I don't know. Also, I'm 21. I didn't get my license until I was 19.
Yeah.
My grandparents were like...
They were not highway drivers.
They were not highway drivers.
Well, grandmother couldn't drive at all. Grandpa did not drive on the highway.
My grandmother and my mom have never driven. They've never had licenses. They can't drive. My grandfather drove everybody everywhere all the time.
Right.
He didn't like taking the highway. And I wasn't allowed to have my license until I could afford to pay for the car and the gas and the insurance associated with it. So at this point, I've only been driving for 2 years. I know how to get up and down Winton Road. Okay? Boom.
She does not know how to get through the Florida highway system.
No, I do now.
So we have to pull off the road. We have to pull off an exit so I could read the map. And I almost like immediately look at the map, find a road. We travel through the backwoods of Florida from essentially Orlando to
nearly every
Jacksonville. We did not reconnect with the highway until Jacksonville.
So I don't remember that at all.
I remember it because I was pissed at you the entire drive. And I was like, wrestling this girl. She didn't even look at the map. She didn't even look at it.
I looked at it and I didn't know what I was looking at.
She just, But I remember we drove from Orlando to Jacksonville the back way. Yeah. And in retrospect, wasn't even where we were supposed to go. We were supposed to be getting back to 75.
Yeah.
But because I was looking for a way, I feel like for some reason I thought we were going to just drive up the coast.
Well, you were going to try to take 95 up.
Yeah.
So we took 75
down, and we thought we'd take 95 up. Were we planning to go back to West Virginia again, I think?
We were going to go back through West Virginia.
Okay, that was what it was. But anyway, so yeah, we drove a back way, a small highway. I'm going to assume it was Highway 17 because now I'm looking at a map.
All around the Mulberry Bend.
We were like middle of nowhere through swampland.
I don't want to sit in traffic.
Because I didn't want to sit in traffic. And it was not a great idea.
So
I wouldn't suggest it.
Me for not being able to read a map or you for not wanting to sit in traffic?
It was you for not even trying to read the map.
I tried. I didn't know what I was looking at.
For failing so miserably at I'm just trying to make you better for the future,
You're trying to make me better for the future.
I'm trying to make you better for the future.
For those listening, please weigh in on this. I tried to read the map, didn't know what I was doing, y'all, okay?
Anyway.
Richie Vaughn could have sat through the traffic, right?
No. The traffic had come to a complete stop. It was like such stop and go traffic, and I did not want to do that.
But that's
And if we just could find a road, and honestly, the road wasn't bad. It was actually a pretty decent, middle of nowhere road.
Many miles out of.
Yeah, but this is back before the GPS would tell you if you were going out of. So it was just like, maybe there's going to be an additional hour. Just go north. Yeah. Maybe there'll be an additional hour to get home, but we'll be fine.
We kept going up that way because we ended up through Knoxville and all that foolishness. Yeah. So
that was our first trip together, and that was when I realized, okay, so I think I might be able to have a life with this person because, that was our only fight. I had previously gone on vacation with girls I had dated, and it was a fight the whole time. We just could not find, like I said, that previous relationship, which I will not necessarily call toxic, but it had a lot of problems. We fought all the way to New York City and back. So this was no, we had a really great time up until she refused to read that map.
I wasn't refusing to read.
And now we came out of it. And continued to date for several years, a lot of the years, way too many years.
Many of the years.
Yeah. We'll have to do a part 2 to this because we've already taken up way too much time.
We have.
Just telling the story of how we met and how it became a real relationship. Yep. Also, she liked French toast as much as I did, or she liked breakfast. She doesn't like French toast as much as I did, but she was willing to tolerate having breakfast every morning.
I like breakfast.
And afternoon. Yeah. For several days in a row. And I don't know that I've ever met another girl who would be like, yeah, sure, we'll have breakfast every stop.
We brunch hard, man.
We brunch so hard. And so for me, it's there's a ton of compatibilities here. We really, we laugh a lot. Yeah. And we talk a lot. And so for me, it was okay, this relationship makes total sense on paper and otherwise. We should totally make this a real thing eventually.
Make it a thing.
I will say some of the things that stood in the way of me saying, okay, let's marry you within that first year was we were still in college. We were still pretty young in college. I had these ideas that we were supposed to graduate and then get married. Yeah, but I also knew I was going to graduate school because I had a degree in psychology that's essentially worthless unless you're going to graduate school. So I was in my head, I'm not finished career-wise. I need to go ahead and resolve this aspect of my identity before I could be a suitable husband. Now, in retrospect, because ultimately we got married in graduate school.
Anyway.
And it wasn't I was making any more money.
All our kids in graduate school.
I remember I had this weird oh my God, if I marry you, because she always had a good job. She worked in IT, so she was making tons of the monies. I was always making pennies. Like I said, making $25,000 a year at that one job with overtime was I'm killing it. Yes. But she was always making double that. She's always made double my salary, even now. In part because she's been in her career for so long. She was in
straight to it.
What was that program that you were in? Not Upward Bound, but
Inroads.
She was in Inroads. I tried to get Inroads. They wouldn't take me because I was not going in any field that they had any.
They have very specific
inroads into
segments. Yeah.
Right. So because she was IT business.
Yeah, there's business.
I'm
finance,
I'm
IT.
going in for psychology. They were you don't want to do engineering or anything? It's I know psychology.
And they're
So best of luck to you, son.
So Inroads has shout out to Inroads. They're a fantastic.
Are they still a thing?
They are still a thing.
Nice.
I still get a lot of their emails and things like that, but they have relationships with many of the Fortune 500 companies, and you have an opportunity to, during the summer, bone up on your resume, interviewing skills. You interview with these Fortune 500 companies and become an intern. And so in my freshman year of school, I had been in the program all through high school, and I interviewed with Provident Bank. And
she worked with Provident Bank forever.
I worked for Provident Bank forever. It got bought by National City, which then got bought by PNC, and now I am at PNC. So
working with some of the same people she worked with at
my
Provident
boss
Bank.
Is the same guy that I worked with when I was an intern. So yeah. So I've always been in the same place.
Our world has always been a little small. Yeah. In that way. Yeah. That so many things have sort of overlapped. Things have changed, they have evolved. Yep. And that we have evolved within that.
And we've evolved kind of together.
There's
somebody at 20 and you're not the same.
We are not the same person. We talked about that a lot. We kind of talked around it in the Together Evolution episode. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of who we were at 20.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that, like I said, bothered me at 20 that now are oh no, this is just how the world works.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that now I'm well, okay, this is important. That wasn't at all important to me when I was 20.
Right. And there are things that were important to you when you were 20 that aren't. Mm-hmm. That you're, I don't want to die on that hill now.
Right.
It's not even important.
I said that to somebody once before, and when you're 20, it's you have to be right, you have to win. And I'm going to give, if I give you a little piece of advice about a marriage, the thing I learned year one is there is no referee. There is no third party unless you decide to pay a person. And you shouldn't be bringing in third parties anyway. Like, you got to figure out how to resolve your conflicts betwixt the two of you, because no referee is going to show up and be like, and blow a whistle and be like, all right. He's correct. Proceed. Like, nobody's going to stop the game to tell you that you're right. You either need to decide, is this something you're going to fight to the end for, or you're just going to let it go, because it might not even matter.
It may not even matter. It may not even be important.
Right.
And if it is important, you got to have a common ground. So even if you do have a person that comes in and is like, you're right and you're wrong, you probably shouldn't have that person.
Right. You don't want too many people in your soup. Too many cooks ruin the soup. Also, I will say that once you're married for so long, like at this point 13 years, and we've been together for like 22 in some capacity or another, like, you can game theory most of the arguments out. You kind of know, like, oh, if I bring this up, she's gonna do that. I'm gonna block with this. I'm gonna say that, and then in the end, we're either gonna end up where I end up doing it anyway, or she does it anyway, or you know what I mean. Like, you just learned your person's tells. You learn how not to trigger them, and you learn this probably isn't worth the fight. So why am I even gonna bring it up? So I'm just gonna go ahead and take these cups from beside her bed and take them downstairs for her. And
Cup City, y'all. Cup City, y'all.
Right. I
don't enjoy it. I don't. I know I just made a song up about it. Just off the dome like that.
Right. Because you like living that way.
I do. Do not.
Right.
I do not.
Right. So you just learn over time, and like learning how to have a fight was like very crucial.
Fighting fair isn't.
In our very first fight, she called me a black bastard, and I laughed so hard. When I tell you, I kind of laughed. She was on the phone yelling at me because of something. And I'm like, we calling names out here on these streets? Is that what we doing? We calling names? Like, in that way that in every relationship, you bring in your baggage.
You do.
And from her previous relationships, there was name calling. I've never had that. And like, okay, I had where I was called names, but I was like, and there were previous relationships where I would get mad and be like, why are you calling me names? How dare you? Or you get stuck in this, but I'm a good person and you're wrong. So I'm going to fight back just because you called me a bad person. But in that situation, it was like, you know, she's this person who reasonably we get along really well, and then out of nowhere, she's this person who calls names and does this really toxic thing in an argument. And I was like, so this is what we can't do. If you're mad at me, you can talk about why you're mad at me, but you're not gonna just call me names.
Yeah, I was a bad fighter.
Yeah.
And
she would get real underhanded.
I would go for the jugular, because whatever came to my head, man, that was just, you know, what I did. And
I would be like, so we're not doing that, but we can talk about why you're upset.
This guy's so calm. He won't fight with me.
No, I had already been through that. I already been through a couple of relationships that were nothing but fights. And I was like, so I'm never doing that again. And if I see that as a flag, I'm out.
Yeah.
And the reason I stayed with you was I said, so we're not doing that. We could try another approach. And you were like, I probably should. And I was like, all right then, let's figure out. Okay, I know I pissed you off. And there have only been in our relationship, I think like 3 or 4 times where I got so mad that I was like, I can't think straight. But it's like, but usually it'd be like a moment of like pure frustration. Usually it was like, that was one of the reasons that I think I knew I loved you, because it was like, oh, you never really fully piss me off. You make me mad. You irritate me, definitely at times, but never like WTF lady. If you don't change your behavior immediately, I'm gonna scream.
I'm gonna lose.
For the most part, we were able to stay very reasonable most of the time.
Yeah.
So in that way, it was like, okay, this works because it makes logical sense. She's a person I can love and can put sort of the best of me and can achieve the best of myself with.
Yeah.
Because she's been there since, graduating from college. We graduated, the same time.
Yeah.
Helped me go back to school to get my doctorate, was there throughout the entire process of that, through the ups and the definite downs of that process, having the kids. We've gone through a lot of fires together.
Through a lot. Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the things that I learned first was to fight fair. So, I eventually
always fight fair. Set the ground rules on what a fight should be.
Set the ground rules and say, listen, this is not what we're gonna do.
No name calling.
I don't want you to call me names.
No spite.
And so
no pettiness.
Yeah. No bringing up the past.
No, don't antique. Don't go through like, hey, remember that one time you did this thing? I want to bring that up right now. Let's talk about what's at stake right now.
Right. So now I know that when I'm about to have a fight with Richie, which is very rare, it's like, So we about to fight.
Yeah, she will cue it up.
I'm queuing you up right now.
So often I will be like in my head, like, what's happening? Oh, okay, so we're in a fight. Okay, so what's on the table?
We're about to fight because if I get to the point where I say that, it's pretty serious. Which, like I said, it's very rare. But now I not only know how to fight fair, I know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I have an idea of what you're gonna say, but I need to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, no, we need to talk it out.
I am not pleased with your behavior right now, and so we're gonna fight.
And we're usually able to resolve it.
Yeah.
No major flaws or faults.
No, I mean, we're able to talk through a lot of things, and sometimes it's just a matter of saying it out loud. Yeah. And for me, a lot of times too, it's okay, you're acknowledging that this is upsetting to me.
Yeah. One thing I think is key that a lot of guys forget to do is let's validate. Okay, so I can see how that upset you.
Yeah.
Whether I intended it or not, I can see that I have upset you.
Yes.
We are no longer
my
in
reality
happy
right
town.
Now of you.
Yeah.
Is that
and I am probably
me.
Complicit. Whether I thought intentionally that what I did would have that effect or not.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and acknowledge I'm probably wrong, even if I'm not sure how yet. Like I usually try and get ahead of that as quick as possible.
Yeah, let's start there.
I'm probably wrong. I may not have thought I was wrong. I may not think 100% that what I did intended to have that outcome.
Yeah.
But I see that you're upset and I don't want that. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to feel bad.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times I will say that in different contexts too, before I get her upset. She'll be like, what did you say to me? And I was like, wait.
That's not what I meant.
Now that I realize what you might have heard was, you're a bad wife or mother. I would never say that to you. I was merely criticizing this one aspect of your behavior, but I am not making any global assessments about who you are as a wife or mother just because I said, I don't understand why we don't have dinner yet. I was thoughtless. I was in the moment. And so I was not saying you were bad at your job in any way. I am just saying I was hungry.
Yeah.
And I also realized I'm complicit. Why didn't I make dinner happen?
Oh, right.
Right?
So the last time that happened, and it was so funny, school is starting this week, and I'm stressing out, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher.
She's so stressed out. I'm trying my level best to keep her as even as possible. That's another key thing. Husbands, when you see her start to get anxious, there's a part of you that wants to check out. Like, that ain't my problem. No, we are in this together. Yes. And I need to make sure that you are as low as I can get.
Clear-headed as possible.
Clear-headed as possible, because there's a lot of decisions coming. So whatever I can take off your plate, whatever I can alleviate, whatever I can add to your life to make things easier. And I can't go assuming what those things will be. I have to ask, and I have to sort of piece through what do you actually need versus what you can even find the words and energy to express to me.
Yeah, there are often times where I can't express the words.
And it's like, okay. Okay, so you know what? Don't think about dinner tonight. Like, don't overdo it. I know you really want it to happen, but forgive yourself and I forgive you if dinner doesn't happen tonight. We just had that conversation last night. She really wanted to make those steaks.
I did for our anniversary.
She really wanted to make these steaks. It's like 9:00 at night, and I'm like, we haven't even turned the grill on, Nicole. We haven't even started the charcoal.
He's like mapping out the time. Like, so by the time we actually sit down to eat, it's going to take you an hour to cook it, and then the potatoes, and then by 10:30, and I'm like, well, I guess you're right.
Right. And I know you had this in your mind.
In my head,
but we are not going to hit that mark.
Yeah.
And that's okay for me.
Yeah.
Can you forgive yourself?
Yeah.
And when I tell you that she was knocked out by 10,
all the way out, y'all.
She was gone to the world.
All the way out.
By 10.
I forgot to put on my CPAP and everything.
Right. And so I was like, okay, so we made the right decision because she was gone.
But I was going to make myself stay up.
I know, and it was not going to be good for you because there's too much going on and you can't do it right now.
That's true.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So the last time it happened, we have a list of supplies for each of the kids. And for remote learning, they give you the main list, which is like 10 or 15 things. Mm-hmm. And then they have the optional list, which is like 100 things. And there's so random things. Like you need flower pots and you need
flax seeds, paint. What?
Right. All these things that we don't normally buy for the kids.
And so Richie was like, don't worry about it. I get the supplies. And what I heard was, I don't know why you stressing out about something that you don't normally do anyway, because every year he goes out.
I go out and I am the hunter-gatherer in this family. I go to the stores. She does not like going to the stores.
I don't like going to the stores. He gets all this.
I stress out about the supplies while I'm at the stores, go running down these lists. And like, why do they need 4 black markers? Like, can I buy the markers over the time? Because why are you buying all of them at the beginning of the year? This doesn't make sense. Just send me an email like he needs new markers and I'll get new markers. But if you want 6 black markers, they didn't even sell them in a box of 6.
Well, and it's always a random number. It's like there's 5 in the pack, but they need 6.
Right.
So I got to buy 2 packs.
Right.
So you got
and I know he's going to open. And, are you going to hold him off? Because if he opens all the tops on these markers and they go bad, they're going to be useless anyway. So you need to dispense the markers anyway. So just make me buy them throughout the year. Whatever. That's another gripe on the lists for that they give you for school. Yeah. So I said, don't worry about it. I usually get the lists anyway. What she heard was, you're a bad person.
What I heard was, I don't know why you stressing out. You're not getting the supplies anyway. You don't never get the surprise.
And that wasn't at all what I said. And so I was like, wait, you're looking at me like I said something crazy. What I didn't say was you were at all a bad mother or a bad person or a bad wife. What I am saying is, I don't want you to stress about this. This has always been a stress that I alleviate.
Yes.
So don't get so caught up on this particular detail because it's always been the one I resolve.
Yes.
And I love you, and you're doing a great job.
He always ends with, you're a great mom, you're a great wife, I love you, you're doing a great job. Which I can't tell you how good it makes me feel, because
I know in her head, the narrative she's got is different. She's telling herself something different all the time. And, you know, as parents, as husbands, as wives, you always have the doubts, the insecurities. And I can't say that I never have my own.
Yeah.
But I just have to tell myself I'm doing my best. And I encourage every parent, particularly all of us who are struggling with this new COVID pandemic plan. Are you remote? Are you hybrid? Is the world all going to hell? Yeah. You are doing the best you can under the circumstances.
You're making the decisions.
You are making decisions. Right.
Yeah.
And my big thing is, everybody's still worried about their kids being behind. Who are they going to be behind? The aliens? Because everybody in America is struggling with the school situation, and it's not going to look the same.
Everybody in the world.
Everybody in the whole planet right now ain't going to pass that grade the same way they would have 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So the education system's just going to look different, and we should all accept this, but what do I know?
Right.
So I know you're worried about your kids being behind, and I'm saying this to my wife, I'm saying this to the people who actually listen to this show. It only kind of matters because we should just all agree as a society we're going to have to amend the expectations because a natural disaster was happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, just for my kids, they're going to learn the bare minimum they need so that the school says they go forward.
Right.
But otherwise, it's just going to be, we're going to scratch this year off.
I mean, and ultimately, like the biggest thing and our biggest successes will be learning how to be in the house together.
Which we've done really well.
We've done.
Sometimes. I mean, the kids get on each other's nerves so much.
Yeah. But you know what, though? They're used to it.
Yeah.
You know, and for you guys that are also doing the same thing, you're in the house with your husband. Mm-hmm. You know, we're used to going separate. I go south. Yeah. You go north.
Right.
I go 30 minutes the opposite direction of you.
Yeah.
I drop these kids off around the corner, and then we're in different areas. But now we've been in the same house together
for months, since April.
And we still have a good time, you know.
We still laugh.
And we still laugh. And the kids still have fun.
We're still able to talk. We're still able to solve problems.
You know, honestly, guys, if you're able to do that, that's winning.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's all those sort of soft, social, emotional things that don't always have outcomes. But honestly, if you're a person, you know, just like we were those two people who could handle that 15, or at that point, like 30 hours in the car together, you know, 22 years ago, then we've handled very well on an emotional, personal level, just being in the house. Like, it hasn't been that hard having you as my quarantine babe.
Hey.
You know, we make it work. And, you know, the kids sometimes, like I said, they are a struggle.
Yeah.
Just because they require so much attention.
Kids are doing kid stuff.
Right. They're just being kids. Love them, but also leave me alone for like an hour or two. I'm stuck. I'm trapped with you. Please just don't feel the need to touch me.
Take a breath. Yep.
So, you know, that's my stuff interacting there. But we have a good rhythm, and we've been able to keep it going. And we started the podcast, and we haven't got on each other's nerves for 7 episodes.
Ooh.
So, you know, a lot of love here. A lot of love in the Hall house. And so that's I guess part 1 and 2. We should eventually tell you the story of how we got engaged, and we'll save that. I don't think that's as long a story. I threw her a surprise party, and her grandparents were there, and she walked up surprised, not knowing.
It was awesome.
And all of our friends and family were there.
Yeah.
Some people we haven't seen like since then, like the Crown Apples and
Mike and Margot.
Mike, yeah. And well, Mike's still a Crown Apple.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the story of us. And glad you could be here for it.
Thank you for listening.
I don't think there was any dinner party where they would have let us ramble on for an hour.
Absolutely
about
not.
how we got together and how this relationship came to be.
No, but if you made it this far.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
We definitely appreciate it. And now you know how Ritch and Nicole became a thing.
First met.
The origin story of these two crazy kids who went on to have more kids.
Man, they didn't know nothing.
Those two kids didn't know a thing. They were just trying to hang out with each other and maybe kiss each other on the face a bunch.
Ooh,
yeah.
And there's a picture of us at the Alpha Cabaret on our piano right now. I found it.
Oh, is that where it is? We'll put it up on the website.
Yep, we'll put it.
That Alpha Cabaret that brought us together. Oh, we're still together.
Still together.
There you go. So thank you guys for listening to episode 7. We definitely went over the hour because we talk way too much, but
thank you.
So glad to have you.
Thank you. And you know what the music means.
You know what the music means. Our time is up.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hallspace podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Daggerpin Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. I knew you were. I think that was what made me the most mad. That you were like, so you were trying to avoid
saying that I didn't know how to read.
You were trying to avoid saying you didn't know how to read. You didn't care that I was getting mad. Like, I remember that being a big part of it. Like, acknowledge that this is happening, and that you're making it worse. House Hall. We rise brilliantly. The Hallspace podcast would like to apologize for any references, jokes, or asides that may not have made sense. Making sense is not the explicit purpose of this podcast. Those looking for sense should look elsewhere. The Hallspace podcast may have significant side effects, including laughing out loud, nodding in agreement, sarcastic chuckles, irreverent ideas, and confirmation bias. Should these side effects cause concern, you should definitely speak with a mental health professional. The Hallspace podcast is not intended to be mental, physical, or legal advice, and is never intended to be listened to by anyone, anywhere. Please use discretion when administering. The Hallspace podcast would like to apologize to the family and estate of John Updike, as well as McDonald's, for their horrible, horrible pancakes. Please do not eat them.